Hello everybody, it has been a while since I did one of these kind of what's going on the channel videos, so I thought today'd be a good day to do it. So as I'm filming, we are Wednesday the 8th of October. So I have some news for those of you that have been watching some of the non-new car related content on the channel as of late. The 911 that you will have seen is gone. It is gone, believe it or not. I know some of you are probably going, what? Why, you idiots? You're going to regret this. I've thought of all those things. I have. Trust me. I've looked at 993 prices and watched them. Although I don't think it's going to be quite the same level of appreciation in the 997. There's just so many more of them made. Uh, I don't think it's going to be the exact same. But anyway, off the back of doing the videos that I did, a couple of people offered to buy the car. And back and forth if it was, one of those people who were interested did. Now, you also would have seen the videos there where I spoke about the work needed to be done to the car. It was approximately €9,000, including brake lines and coffin arms, discs and pads, full service, the tandem pump that was done on the car that was kind of part of the condition of sale. And then the person who bought the 911 wanted to get a PPI done on it. So that was something else that was carried out last week. And let's just say this might change your opinion on where we are. So for me, I spent €40,000 on the 911. That was what I paid for it 12 months ago, okay? Road tax is €1,800. I bought the car straight out. Lucky enough to be able to do that. There was no finance involved or anything like that. And apart from the tandem pump and the road tax and petrol, and there was a brake switch needed, that was £130 or something. That's all it cost me. Now, I didn't quite manage to sell it for that. Did lose sort of 4,000-ish on the car. But the new owner, who now has it, I can't believe I'm saying that, it's kind of mad, got the PPI done. And two things showed up. So, first of all, the estimate that I had was just a very superficial, let's walk underneath the car on a ramp and let's see what kind of stuff, is going to be needed over the next short term. But obviously, a pre-purchase inspection is much more in depth than that. It costs about €400. A couple of places in Ireland where you can get them done if you're buying a Porsche, and I would definitely recommend getting one done if you're buying a Porsche. Any Porsche, to be honest, it's money well spent. And that turned out to be a bill of somewhere around maybe 12 to 15,000 euro for everything on the car to be right. So coolant pipes, a few other issues that hadn't been, weren't presented on the superficial look of the car. And that meant that if I was to use some of my own money to make it all right, the car was going to stand me about €55,000. There's another 10 years of road tax to go into it at €1,809 per annum. So obviously maintenance, servicing, all the stuff. It was going to turn into a very, very expensive car. And even if it does appreciate the way 993s have, I would maybe break even if I'm lucky in 10 or 15 years time. And I suppose since I've started doing YouTube full time, I've had to think of it a bit like a business. It is a business. I don't have a boss. I don't have an employer. I don't have a nice cushy job where I can, rock in, do this on the side and, take a full-time wage. So this is one of my main sources of income. And I've got to think now of the cars kind of like a business. And I just thought, this doesn't make sense to use another chunk of savings to be in this car to a debt of sort of 55 grand, hang on to it, and, really, yes, enjoy the car, but never actually get anywhere near your money back. So when someone came along and they were willing to give relatively decent money for it, I was like, yeah. Now, the first time we spoke, the guy who bought it came out and had a look at the car and it was fine. And then maybe 3 or 4 days later, he was like, yeah, okay, right, I'm definitely interested. Here's the price. And it took me maybe a couple of hours to build up the courage, knowing that this phone call was probably going to be a conversation that was going to sell the car. I was like, don't know, do I really want to sell it? What am I doing? What am I doing? It was a bit of a melt, you know, a first world problem, as I keep saying, because it is first world problems. Melt. Anyway, I got over it. We agreed, and today's Wednesday, Saturday, just Saturday gone. It left. Do I miss it? I do, but I have to be kind of clinical and methodical in these things. And a couple of things that have come into my head since the first Porsche video, I'll explain them now in just a second. But I've had lovely cars over the years, Audi S3s, loads of Golf GTIs, BMW M3s, loads of 6 Series, like 335 M Sport Coupe. Yeah, I've had some nice cars. You know, I had an Alpha GTV, believe it or not. And you kind of just have to enjoy them and then move on. And a lot of you said that in the comments, actually, in that video, just like, you know, quit while you're ahead. The video's still taken away on YouTube video views, and that's great, but it's taking a different turn now. You're getting people who are obviously just finding it now and coming in telling me, you know, I obviously couldn't afford the car because I don't want to keep it. And, you know, you're looking at supercar bills and you're expecting this. And there was a very nice vibe about it. Now it's just turning into Muppets who really, I'm not going to start judging what's in there or what isn't in their bank account, but they feel that they can do that for me. And anyway, look, whatever. And by the way, 911 is not a supercar. GT3 maybe? Yeah, but a regular Carrera 2? No. Anyway, so the video kind of made me realize that although there's a huge chunk of people who are subscribed to the channel because they're new car reviews, there's clearly, you know, people who just like cars. And a lot of you have said, look, I don't watch all the videos, but of the new stuff that does interest me, I watch. And I don't watch EVs, or I do watch EVs, whatever it is. But I was kind of nervous that older stuff wouldn't really have a home on the channel and wouldn't be received well. Now, I've only done a few videos. I don't know, is the Porsche video the reason it did very well, or was it just the doom and gloom of, oh my God, here's a 9,000 euro bill, what the hell am I going to do? I don't know what exactly it was, but I'm willing to try. So first of all, a few of you have reached out and said, look, I have this car and this car, you're welcome to drive it. So if anyone does want to do that, just email me, nobbyOnCars@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you. So yes, I would like to feature some of your cars. Like, would you be interested in being in a video to talk about your car story? That would also be cool. And obviously I now have topped back up the savings account from selling the Porsche, and it's got me thinking. So I had a chat to Simon Dean, who I bought the 911 from, and he, of course, Simon is a car salesman, so he's always like, well, I have this thing. So he actually has a lovely Porsche Boxster. Here's a picture of it now. They've just spent a lot of work on it, and I actually think it's a pretty decent price if someone's looking for a Porsche. It's 20 grand, and it has had a list of stuff done to it. Not that I'll never say never about a Porsche again, but I'm kind of I want to try something else. So just chatting to mates and stuff, and they're like, why don't you do some video series of old stuff? Maybe not as you're in it for as much with like the 911. And some cars, and look, this is where I mean about being clinical. You know, I can park. That was a lovely car and I enjoyed it, blah, blah, but what's best for the channel now? And what could help the channel grow? Because that would be the dream. So things like Mk2 Golf GTIs have suddenly come in under my radar. And I had a look at this one actually the weekend. And I'm going to blame Simon for this one, because he was like, offer him 9. So I offered him 9.5. And he didn't reply. He did reply to my first initial question and then didn't reply. Now, I can always go back with a higher offer, but that's really nice golf. Then Paddy, who I do the podcast with, found this Corrado, which, although it has 70,000 miles on it, you could eat your dinner off it. I've never seen a car ad where they've taken a picture of inside the wheel well with the jack to show you how clean it is. And that is at the more expensive end for a Corrado. Then I had a look at this green one. So you've got obviously the G60s, but you've got VR6 Corrados if you want. I think they're about 160 brake horsepower to the front wheels, which is kind of nothing by today's standards, but back then cars were not as heavy. The S2000 is still there. A lot of you have said you'll be mad, you won't enjoy it the same way. I don't know about that, because like I really enjoyed the MX-5, and that was not a fast car, but it was just a feeling. And I know you've got to get closer to the red line in the S2000. I've actually never driven an S2000, which is kind of embarrassing for me to say. Came close with last year. I went up to have a look at one in the north, and the guy was just a bit of a, you know what? He was like, "Are you interested in the car?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I've driven all the way up here, 2 hours from my house to do the same journey back. Obviously, I'm interested." But there was literally no paperwork with the car at all. It was a 2007, 8. There was nothing. I was like, "You've no service history at all." No, no. I was just like, "Oh, whatever." And then it was, "Are you actually interested?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I am interested, but you know." So I've never driven one. So I need to, you know, I can't shell out. And, you know, the price of them, they're not cheap for a good one with low miles. You are probably talking, and the VRT is anyone's guess because they took a lot of the interesting stuff off the VRT calculator years ago. And you've no way of knowing until you rock up in your car. And then if it's something that you don't want to pay, you have, I think, 4 weeks to export it back. But no one wants to go down that road. So you could be looking at a VRT bill of about €12,000 on top of this one, for example, which is about €25,000. I actually rang up with this car. It's had a little bit of work done in, I think is it Redline? They're a Honda specialist in the UK. If anybody's heard of them, feel free to Red Or Performance, actually. So they're Honda specialists, so it's had an engine rebuild. And again, more mates who are more in the know about cars than me said two things. One, why would an S2000 need an engine rebuild? Was it tracked to the blow up? And secondly, would you not just find another one that hasn't got that history? Now, some of the AP2s did have issues. So on the one hand, you could be like, well, look, it's been sorted. So that's one less thing to worry about. And you know, I'm definitely more eyes open going into buying stuff. You know, you've got to make sure you know about what's been done and what hasn't been done to it. So, and again, the S2000 kind of gets you back into nearly Porsche money, and not the same running cost, but you're kind of tied up in that ball of cash in that car. So I was looking at BMW Z4, I was looking at the 2.5 petrol engine and that. There was a nice one of them actually in the north. I'll actually try and find it. If it's still for sale, I'll put a link to it. And I'm just thinking, you know, I could bring these cars in, do a little bit of video with them. If they need a bit of work done, get that done, freshen them up a little bit. I'm not trying to be Mike Brewer here, for example, but I could have my fun, make some content that hopefully you guys would enjoy. And then, you know, the car is up for sale for someone who wants to buy it. E30 BMWs, always loves them. They're just gone too expensive now. They're like 40 grand. And again, they kind of need to be babied and probably kept in a heated garage. I don't have a garage, so that kind of rules it out. And obviously S2000s have rust issues. Your Golf could have a rust issue. That's the other thing with buying cars in the UK. If they were driven on salted roads, not ideal. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And that's what I mean about being clinical. I'm able to jump from that type of car into a 30 plus year old Mk2 Golf GTI and still think I can have fun. Because for me, it's just cars. It doesn't really matter what the car is. I just love cars. It's like people ask me what's your favorite music type. I don't really have a favorite music type. Like, I just like music. So in that sense, I'm really able to park the whole thing. From one car to the next and move on to the next one. So yeah, that's kind of my news. These are some of the cars I'm looking at. What would you do? Like if your budget was up to €30,000, let's put a number on it, right? But anything in between is fine as well. What would you get? Leave a comment down below. What's been your car, you know, that you always said, one day I'd love that. Someday, if I get some spare money, I'll get one of these. What is that car for you? Because I'd love to just get involved in the discussion down below and just sort of see, is there something I should be considering that I'm not? And you know, can you sort of build this into the channel as sort of a thing that we do together? I suppose you'll watch me try and maintain these things. You know, I haven't a clue, but I'll give it a go. And you know, the retroness of old cars that we've all maybe grown up with, forgotten about, and they were big things for us in the 80s and 90s or whatever. And sort of build them into the channel with the regular press cars. You know, I'm not going to stop reviewing new cars, but I do think if, like, let's say 2 years from now, every press car is electric, I think that's kind of narrowing the audience to what is out there for car content. And if you are, a car fan, there's loads of other things out there very obvious on YouTube. The barn finds of Johnny Smith's. A lot of you have said do that kind of stuff. Johnny Smith, and it's a different animal. I don't want to copy anybody else, but like at the weekend I watched the videos. Was it the Porsche 928s, and it's 40 minutes long, and it's so watchable because it's just the story and the cars and the history, and look at them. And this hasn't got switches because they were trying to make it lightweight, and this one has a bit more spec on it because it wasn't a kind of a cup or a race version of it. And I just think there's probably an audience out there who may not want to watch a new Ford Capri video, but would be interested in something a bit retro and classic. And once it's all kind of mixed nicely into the channel, it could work. So that's sort of where I'm at now. Let me know. Tell me I'm mad for selling the Porsche if you like. I've explained my reasons why I thought it was time to let it go, and it's just financial thing. It's kind of nice looking at a few extra quid back in your bank account, kind of knowing it's safe now at the moment. And you're like, and that's the other part. Like, a huge amount of it is the fun of looking, spending the hour or two before you go to bed, not watching something on the telly, going to your phone, looking for bargains. So let me know. And let me know if you're aware of an S2000 that one could be tested and two might be for sale without the hassle of going to the UK. I would be interested as well. Or a Mk2 Golf GTI or something else. So feel free to, send this video on to someone who might be storing something that they're not sure about getting rid of, but maybe if there was a buyer, they'd be interested. So that's the latest. Thanks very much for watching. Back to some more car reviews over the next little while. I have some stuff to edit in the tank. And yeah, get involved in the comments down below, and I'll chat to you soon. Thanks for watching.